Welcome to another episode of How to Raise a Mazel Mentch. We're talking about the topic of power struggles. You know, it can be really hard when you're trying to get a child to cooperate and they are resisting. In our previous episode, we spoke about how to be self-reflective and think about how we might be contributing to the dynamic of that power struggle. So whether it's thinking about the way that we're stating and communicating our expectations authoritatively but respectfully, calmly, and clearly. We spoke about choosing our battles, how to do that, and how to not engage with the power struggle by basically taking out our batteries. Now, what I'd like to do today is to really talk more about some of the underlying dynamics that contribute to power struggles. Sometimes power struggles are a symptom of something else that is going on. For example, we might want to consider whether or not the child is seeking power because they don't feel like they have it in other areas of their life. Sometimes the power seeking might be a reflection of some insecurity that the child feels because of a stressful family situation, a new baby, a new home, adults are arguing, or some stress they're going through at school, having, whether it's difficulty with learning or social interactions. Sometimes it can just be that the child feels like they don't have the space to do things independently on their own. So, for example, they might want to dress themselves and none of the adults in their life let them, when they're little. They might want to make some choices on their own. They might not want to create things independently on their own, and they're not being given the opportunity. Now, these freedoms, when given within, the right, safe framework, can actually provide children with healthy power that helps them grow. But when they're in a very rigid, very strict environment or overprotective environment, children tend to push back by trying to take power on their own through defiant behaviors. And if this is happening, you want to think about how to give the child power to basically empower them rather than waiting for them to take it on their own terms. When they feel empowered, they're given responsibilities, they're given choices, they're given independence, then this basically becomes both tools to motivate the child to cooperate with the tasks that we need them to, but it also makes them feel powerful in a healthy way because it's within a framework that you have set. Now, sometimes it's actually the opposite. It's not that the child is seeking power because they have no power, but rather they have too much power. And therefore, they can't really process or tolerate when the adult tries to take it back. So a question to think about might be, is the child getting to make decisions that really should be delegated to an adult? Is it clear that there are adult decisions and child decisions? What happens when the child makes demands that are rude or disrespectful? Do we just give in? What happens when the child invades private spaces or possessions that belong to other adults in the household? Is it tolerated? And perhaps, essentially, there is a need to improve boundaries at home and establish that there is a parent and that there is a child and that the balance of power is appropriate and healthy. Because when a child is given an inappropriate amount of control at home, it becomes very difficult for the parent to assert authority when needed, and the child becomes confused and will automatically engage in a power struggle when suddenly the parent is demanding cooperation. So let's talk about this a little bit. It's really easy to fall into the trap of looking aside at disrespectful behavior and to hesitate from addressing it. I'm tired, I don't want to be too demanding, or to just accept this is the way it is, dismiss it, maybe it's not so bad. I can be forgiving, it's whatever, it's just my honor, who cares? But this is not the Torah way. The Torah places great emphasis on the mitzvah of kibud avim, of honoring and respecting parents, and it's even included in the 10 Commandments, the top 5. It's the only one of the 10 that actually says the reward for its observance. It's long life. Good stuff. Even more so, the 10 Commandments are grouped into 2 sections, and the first 5 include all the mitzvot that are in relation between man and God, and honoring our parents is included in that 5, because Judaism takes the view that for one to develop a relationship with God that is both loving as well as filled with awe, one must be trained from childhood to respect authority, beginning with one's parents. Now, what's so beautiful and unique about the Torah's perspective on this mitzvah of kibbud av v'em is that it's not encouraging a dictatorial approach to parenting, which that was what was prevalent in society at the time the Torah was given. Instead, the Torah takes the perspective that children will learn to respect their parents when they're educated and when they're raised in an environment where at home, the home is structured in a way that encourages respectful behavior towards all adults. So, for example, halakha states that a parent should have a set place at the table where the child cannot sit in without explicit permission from a parent. A child should be encouraged and trained to bring his or her parent food or drink. Now that really flips things around, right? It's usually the other way. And most importantly and interestingly, a child should be taught not to contradict a parent unless they find a respectful way to kind of indirectly explain what they see as the truth. So rather than saying, Dad, you know what you're talking about, that's wrong. Mom, you're supposed to say, is it possible that maybe it's actually, something else? Or I was thinking that it might be. So never to openly contradict a parent. Now, this is something that must be taught by us. Obviously in ways that are loving and respectful to the child, not in a way that they feel belittled. And it's a team effort because moms and dads rely on each other to train the child how to treat the respective spouse. So, for example, why don't you go bring mom a drink? She looks tired. You're going to do a mitzvah and you're going to make her happy. Or, it's not okay to contradict your dad that way. Why don't you try that again? And it is our responsibility to teach this to our kids. There is no one else in the world that we can rely on to really do this, to enforce it, to train it day to day in our household. And we can even tell our kids, this is my responsibility to teach you how to be a mensch and to cultivate within you. We call this characteristic kabbalat ol, the ability to accept and to respect the authority of the adults in our lives, our parents and our teachers. Now, obviously, it is okay for a child to make a request about something, and they should know that parents will hear them out and really consider and think about what they're saying and asking. But they also need to know that firstly, there is a respectful way to ask for something. And if you hear a kid not really getting that the first time, it's okay to prompt them to try again. Why don't you try that in a more respectful way? And if you need to give them the words to do so, it's okay to coach them through that. But secondly, kids need to know that at the end of the day, the decision will be made by the adult, and the adult alone. Kid can be told, I hear what you're asking, I will think about it, and I might decide to do it the way you asked, or I might not. But whatever I decide, I expect that you will accept it, and you're going to do it happily. That's Kabbalah Dol. With little ones, we have this little chant that goes, whatever mommy or daddy say, we say okay, and we do it right away. And this is how we raise children, with this idea that there is an adult and there are children. There's a respectful way to communicate, there's a way to ask for some of that power, and there's a way that it's not okay. And if they're having a hard time, we can tell them, I understand it is hard, I understand it is frustrating, but this is the way that it needs to be done. One final word. Children who struggle with power and with adults respond really well to lots and lots of positive and specific recognitions of their good behavior and their cooperation. Any time that they display the trait of Kabbalat Ol, any time that they show beautiful kibbud av v'em, you want to highlight that, build that up. Don't always focus on things that they're doing wrong, because that doesn't help them learn. What helps them learn when we're emphasizing what they're doing right. I see that you cleaned up right when I asked you to. What beautiful Kabbalat Ol. Thank you for coming upstairs quickly. That was a really respectful way to ask. These recognitions empower them in a healthy and positive way. It builds the child up and it invests in your relationship with them. And already it helps reduce the need to seek power the wrong way. That's all for today. I wish us all lots of luck in raising our children and helping them find that right balance. And I look forward to the next episode of How to Raise a Mazel Mentch. Shabbat Shalom.